Hello, everybody. Yesterday, I did something very exciting. I got my second vax, so I'm feeling a little bit maybe sleepy today, but overall, not so bad. Just kind of feels like a little bruise on the arm. No fever or anything, so that's good. Pretty stoked about that. Anyways, this is the HackerNoon Podcast, and my name is Amy Tom. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I am talking to Gil Alouche, who is the CEO of Metadata IO, and Tom Coburn, who is the CEO of Jebbit.
HackerNoon Podcast.
Thank you very much for joining me, guys.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here.
So I would like to talk to you guys today about using marketing data to make decisions and starting a company based on that. So I would love to start off at the very, very beginning. Gil, could you tell me what your very first job was?
Very first job.
Ever.
My first, the first way I made money, the first like official job. That's what you're asking.
I want to know both now.
Well, the first time I made money, I think I was 8 years old. I used to bring firecrackers from France for really cheap because I was a kid. No one was suspicious. And I would sell them for like legit 8-10 times the price to the rich kids in my class.
Wait, where did you grow up? Sorry.
I grew up in Israel, but my family is also from France.
Okay, so your family would go on like a vacation to France and you would pick up firecrackers. Your parents let you do this?
Not only did they let me do it, they would sometimes invest and help me just like get a nice chunk before, and I would sell it both at the stores in my hometown as well as to the kids who were interested.
Amazing. Okay. And then what was your first official paid job?
Official paid job, I handed out brochures to a computer programming school that I studied in.
Okay. Wow. Was this also in Israel?
It was also in Israel, in my hometown. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And Tom, what was your very first job?
I like the way Gil answered it. A first way of making money and then first job. The first time I tried to make money, I got in trouble. It was in sixth grade because I had started a March Madness bracket with like half the kids in my grade, and I was collecting $20 from everyone. And then the teachers found out and I had to give all the money back. So I think your business was more successful than mine was because I didn't actually make any money. And then my first like actual job that I had, a boss and had to show up for was working at a golf course. So I was a big golfer growing up, and I figured I should combine my passion for golf and work at a golf course, which in hindsight wasn't a great idea because I just had to stand at the golf course all day and wash other people's clubs and get the carts ready for them while they played golf. So, that was my first job.
Okay, yeah. So you were doing more of like the caddy stuff, not like in the restaurant or something?
I wasn't in the restaurant. Yeah, I was out in the bag room, they call it, where the carts ready.
Okay. And then, now let's move on to like the next stage of your life. Gil, what did you do after that?
I mean, I had a lot of jobs as a kid. So I worked as a computer technician in a computer technician kind of store back when there were still desktops and people were fixing their PCs. I used to operate a trampoline in an amusement park.
What?
Yep.
Wait, what country?
Israel. This is all Israel.
Okay.
I only moved out and lived in a different country when I was 24.
Okay. A trampoline operator. Okay.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It is random. That's what I've done.
Did you go to post-secondary?
What is post-secondary?
College, university?
Oh, yes. So I went to the army because it's Israel. And after that, I went for a long trip in the Far East. And then I went to do my college and then graduate school. I actually started my computer science degree when I was in high school.
What? How?
Like classes, remote classes.
Wow. Okay. So you have a computer science degree.
Computer science degree and an MBA. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then when did you move to the States?
At 2007, the end of 2007.
Mm-hmm. And what was your first job when we got here?
Well, I was creating websites for my college classmates. That was just to make some money, and then I had an internship at SAP in Palo Alto, maybe 8 months after I arrived to the US.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And Tom, tell me about what happened after the golf course.
Junior of high school, I got really into the science fair. I was forced to do science fair for a chemistry class I wanted to take, and I really didn't want to do it. And I've learned about myself when I do things, I tend to go all in. So I ended up going very all in on science fair. My partner and I went pretty far with it, and I ended up landing internships to work in different chemistry labs through that. So I spent summers working in chemistry labs, which led me going to Boston College, where I went fully convinced I was going to be a biology and chemistry double major and go become a doctor. And clearly I didn't end up going that route, but that is where I was at when I got to college.
Okay, so when do you have a degree in medical things?
I technically don't have a degree. I ended up leaving college early to do Jebbit. But at the time I left, I had dropped the chemistry. I was a biology and theology double major. So those were the things I was studying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Someday I'll go back and get a diploma, though. I promised my grandma. So.
Okay. All right. I have a diploma too. So
There you go.
why did you drop the science then?
I only dropped the chemistry part. I stuck with biology, but I just
But
Boston
I mean, like,
College.
what made you want to get not use the science education that you had and start Jebbit instead?
Honestly, I just fell in love with the idea of starting a company. Our school has a business plan competition like many other schools do, and all my roommates were in the business school. So me and them decided to team up and pitch a business idea. And freshman year, we tried to pitch a medical device idea because we were trying to combine, my passion for science and theirs for business. And just no one believed us that a bunch of freshmen in college were going to start a medical device. Probably fair. None of us had a medical degree. So when we came back for sophomore year, we just tried to brainstorm ideas that would be more believable. A bunch of sophomores in college would be able to produce. And I ended up that year coming up with the original kernel of the idea that was Jebbit. We've evolved a lot since then. But long story short, we won the competition, and we did a summer program with a venture capitalist in Boston who had gone to Boston College, our school, and was an alumni. And that summer changed my life. After having a whole summer to work on the business full time, I shifted the focus away from medical school to I actually want to start this company and go make it happen.
And how long ago was that?
Let's see. That was about a decade ago now. Yeah, that was the summer of 2011 between my sophomore and junior years of college.
Okay, wow. Can I just say that you do not look like you're a decade out of college?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Huge.
Okay, cool. How many people did you found Jebbit with?
There's kind of different phases of that, right? I had, 4 friends that we won the business plan competition with, and then only 2 of them actually wanted to work on the idea, right? It's one thing to just pitch it and win a competition. It's another thing to say, now we're actually going to go work on it. And then none of them ended up dropping out with me. I ended up dropping out with 2 new co-founders that I met, kind of a second wave of co-founders, I guess you could call it. Because similarly, it's a whole nother ball game to say, I'm actually going to leave school and go work on this business full time. And then when I did drop out, we had a team of over 50 students that were working with us. That was how we built the company for the 2 years I was in school. So we had all these students working with us. And so 5 of them I ended up hiring right as they graduated 6 months after I dropped out, because we had raised a seed round of funding. So there's also kind of a founding team of them as well. So there's kind of like three different chunks depending on how you want to look at it.
Okay, so you hired people almost right out of the gate then.
Hire is an interesting word. Yeah, they all were just helping. I was just a student in college with we had no money. It wasn't like a full-time job for anyone, but yes, we had, 50 students I think it was 52 students at its peak were volunteering and
Wow.
helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Gil, I believe you are also a co-founder, right?
Today I'm a single founder. It's similar to Tom. There are a few different rounds with co-founders. I started the company with. I started on my own. I brought in two founders, and they were working with me each for about 2 years, and they went on to do different things. One of them started a new company, and one of them is working at a company.
Okay. Did you feel like at the time when you started, you needed a co-founder, or if you could do it again, would you have done it on your own? Gil, do you want to start?
I think you hit it right. I thought I needed a co-founder when I started. I thought this is the only way to go. I heard so many anecdotal, statements like, no one wants to invest in a single founder. You have to have someone to do this with. And I think a lot of it is there is merit to it. But I also realized that absolutely I can build a company as a single founder. It doesn't mean that I'm working on a company on my own. I can still have partners in the company. They can still have a material equity stake in the company. They don't have to be co-founder who started from scratch.
Okay. Tom, how do you feel about the founder versus co-founder argument?
I feel like I needed it. Now, part of that might be I was a biology major with no degree and no ability to code, trying to start a software company in the marketing world. So I had no actual skills on paper towards what we were trying to do. But as a first-time founder, to me, it was critical having a couple of co-founders around and a couple other people that were there with me when we were having really bad times and there to celebrate with when we were having good times. I think now, being a lot later into it, now I have a lot more confidence I could do it on my own if I wanted. I just personally wouldn't want to. If I started another company again someday, I would want to do it with a couple of my friends and people I've co-founded this one with, and maybe new people we meet, who knows. But I like that team dynamic myself, but everyone's different, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. Now, Gil, I would love to learn about the story of how Metadata got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I went to Boston, very familiar with Cleveland Circle and Boston College. I drank a lot of beers over there. So I went to Boston
Gil, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but right when we left school, we got a house in Cleveland Circle and we had 14 people living in a 9-bedroom house, all working for the company for a year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. That must have been an experience.
It was, city side bar, if you know it. We were right behind that. So, yeah.
Lots of memories from Boston. We can talk about it all day. So I went to Boston to do my MBA. I ended up after my graduate school, I spent almost a decade working in marketing, running marketing for 3 B2B startups. And I realized that as an engineer running marketing, I actually, especially in B2B, I have a competitive advantage because B2B marketing became extremely technical and quantitative job. So I've done that for, I think, something like 8 years. And I realized I'm on the path to being a CMO that makes lots of money. But what I really wanted to do is start a company. And what better way of doing it besides making myself a commodity? And so I started a company so that you don't have to hire software engineers to help you with your technical marketing. And so I had this idea. I resigned from my last VP of marketing job. And in the same conversation, I told him, but you should hire me as a consultant because I'm starting a consultancy. And that was essentially my first customer. And I think a year later, I already had a good idea of what I'm building. I was in a Bessemer Venture Partner event, talking to maybe 20 CMOs and telling about experimentation and data-driven marketing. So many of them were interested that in the middle of there was a lunch break, and I took the lunch break to go on LinkedIn and change quickly to founder, so that after the lunch break, I can tell people, actually, if you want to work with me, I have a company. And so it happened right there on the spot.
Oh, so you just made it Okay, wow, what a power move. Nice. And what year was this?
This was 2016.
Okay. Okay, so now it's been about 5 years since you started that. And how many people are working at your company now?
I think we have about 55 people.
55 people. Okay, cool. And how would you have described your growth over the past 5 years?
Like this, and then like that.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, the first 3 years we were just building IP. We just got our fifth patent. We were just building technology. In the marketing space, it's very easy to start, very hard to finish strong. I don't know if Tom agrees. And so we wanted to build a little monster with a lot of technology, a robust and novel technology, and only then go to market when we really have something differentiated. And that's what we've done. We only went to market maybe 2.5 years ago. And then the growth happened, and we also have to we had to conserve cash, because I think most startups in the first few years, the job, especially if you have something novel that is innovative, you have to survive for the market to recognize what you're building and to use it. And so we really waited to see until we knew product market fit is clear, and then scaled.
So it took you 2.5 years before you officially launched like the product to the market. Okay, wow. That's a lot of development work.
Yeah, I mean, it was development work. It wasn't in a silo. Like, we were trying to find the customer, see what exactly is working, what is not working. And that was a long feedback loop. I would say 2 to 2.5 years, getting that feedback loop, getting to a really good product market fit, and then going to market with it.
Cool. Okay. And Tom, how did Jebbit become Jebbit?
Yeah, so I hit on a little bit of it earlier with we just wanted to start a company. We came up with the kernel of the idea for Jebbit and won the business plan competition. The idea I dropped out of school with and raised $2 million of seed funding on was we literally were a website for college kids where they could get paid to answer questions about brands. Kind of crazy to me in hindsight. We raised money on that idea. It had a lot of issues and challenge with scaling it, but we shut that down in 2015 and kind of pivoted into the ultimate version of what Jebbit is today. So, to answer some of the questions that you were asking, Gil, we're around the same size now, about 50 people, and the growth has been crazy up and down over the years, but it's been a really good last year and a half or so, as we've kind of just pivoted and evolved out of this like marketplace for college kids to make cash to being a true enterprise marketing platform now that, many of the largest brands in the world license. So yeah, that's a bit of the story at a high level. Okay.
How did you decide when was the right time to pivot your business?
We had raised money and we knew we had runway to figure it out. And we were just kind of banging our heads against the wall with a lot of the problems. And for us, it was two problems. It was first, not feeling like brands were getting genuine interactions with the students because they were just getting paid and the students didn't really care about the brands there. And we knew that, even if the brands didn't fully realize it. And the other one was, it was just a challenge being a marketplace and building both sides. And so I think for us, we just kind of all had an honest conversation, me and my co-founders, of like, is this the business we dropped out of school to start? And it was like a pretty resounding just gut feeling of no, like, it's just not. Could we have made it successful? Probably. Like, I'm sure we could have, grown it and sold it and had a decent outcome, but it just wasn't something we felt was going to be like a real core of any big brand's marketing platform, and something that would be, a part of that core tech stack and something that they love to use every day and gives them great value. And so the problem was we had no idea what we were going to build. we just knew all the problems of our current business, and we really didn't have a vision yet of where we wanted to take it. But I went to a board meeting and I told my investors a bit of what I was just saying. And thankfully we were very lucky, and our investors told us, look, we invested in you and your team more than we invested in the idea. So if you guys want to pivot this to something different, we support you on that. Just don't spend a lot of our money while you're doing it. So we agreed to not hire anyone until we figured out the new model. I think the company was like 8 people at the time. So it was basically, okay, the 8 of us are going to go figure out, what the future of this business is going to be.
But how did you know it wasn't working, or it wasn't what you intended? Gut feeling?
I think just kind of a gut feeling. Yeah. I mean, it's not like objectively the business wasn't working. We were growing, revenues were growing every month. We had raised money. It was just like, we just kind of knew this has a certain, we didn't love the business itself because of the incentivized nature. And then I think we just knew some of the challenges of scaling it with being a marketplace. And I guess gut feeling, just a lot of conversations with users, customers, each other, things like that.
So, but then that's not really gut feeling. That's like you really understand your marketplace. You understand your customers.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Gut feeling from being in the business, living and breathing it every day for 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, Gil, I want to learn more about scaling a business. I think like for me as a young entrepreneur or young aspiring entrepreneur, I get confused about like how to grow quick, like, and when it's quick too, like how to scale your business and make sure that your customers are happy, make sure you're still making money, make sure you still have money to pay your employees. So can you describe business scalability to me and some of the problems that you might have encountered and lessons you've learned?
Yeah, from all the million mistakes I've made, definitely there are some insights. I will say I don't think I still have the street cred yet to talk about scale, because I don't know, 55, 60 people I don't think is really
you've got
yet
more street
scale.
cred than I do.
But I will say I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, or there are a few, I guess, pillars, but one of them is it's like a classic cliche sentence. It's like hire slow, fire fast, big one. Not to get into. I remember I had a conversation with an investor who told me, "Gil, you're doing great. The company is doing amazing. We want to put in, we want to put more money. Like, you should raise the next round." It's like, this sounds great. They said, like, you can hire like 5-6 new salespeople. And I was like, wait. We don't have a real product yet. It's going to just crash and burn. And then we had like this 20 minutes argument kind of where it was like, no, you have to hire these people. I want to put all this money. And I was like, we'll die just fast with lots of money. And eventually he's like, I'm not going to give you the money. I was like, okay, sounds like you're not going to be an investor. But that was, I think, the right decision, because many times you're forced to grow, not really because you want to, but because others tell you to, and you're not ready for it. And I think it's important to understand what stage you are, and try to reverse engineer the future a little bit. I think another one is to really understand your unit economics before you scale, to see that you are about to grow something that is sustainable. Like if your customer acquisition costs are through the roof, or like Tom was mentioning, the business just seems to have, there's going to be a big bottleneck or a big limitation fairly soon. And you already know it 2 years ahead of time. You don't have to actually get there and then regret getting there. You can think about it ahead of time. I think these are really the big ones. There's another one that if you told me I'm going to talk about this 5 years ago, I would laugh. But culture is a big piece too. Like if you build a company, it's an org that has a strong culture that represents what you want. Like for us, it's like we have the super authentic, the opposite of corporate America. Genuine hustle, all those good traits. When you grow, it's very easy to bring in, by mistake or just by lack of time, folks that will change that, either lower the bar or just change the culture to the worse. And it's 1,000,000% up to you to fix it immediately. So you brought in someone that reduces the bar. You're thinking, I don't want to fire because everyone's going to be sad and demoralized, but actually, the moment you do that, they're going to tell you what took you so long. And so
hire fast, fire quickly. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I think that I would have anxiety about firing people But I think that's like my social nature, and I've also never had to do that, like managing people, and I guess that's part of the job, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's actually it's for people's best interest. Sometimes, when you fire when someone is not performing well, or they're not happy, or they're just not a fit, they know it usually, and they're not happy either. They're not really fulfilled. They're kind of like not living in fear, but like not really happy and fulfilled. And someone has to do it. Someone has to, talk about the elephant in the room. Like, this is obviously not a good fit. Let's not be fearful of the future, of the uncertainty. We can do it in a very human. You can do it in the best way. Actually, doing it is kind of, I think, the right decision. You can give them months of severance or insurance if they have some, if they have family and things like. You can help them find their next job. You can end very amicably, even on a really good note, versus letting it linger until it's like not a good breakup.
Right. Tom, what are some things that you wish you knew about scaling?
First of all, I agree with everything that he just said. And then secondly, I think it's really interesting how you asked the question of like, I want to know how to grow fast. And if you listen to both of our stories, it wasn't fast.
No.
Like, what did Gil say? Three years of this and then this. And then what did I just tell you? Like from 2011 to 2015, I was like scaling this thing. I eventually shut down and like rebuilt the whole thing. Like
that gives me anxiety.
I completely underestimated how long it was going to take to get there. And I definitely in the early years chased revenue growth when I should have been chasing figuring out the product people actually need and building that product. And I just had to learn that the hard way. So, and I don't know how you could have convinced 19-year-old me anything different. Like looking back on it, I read the books, I read the startup books. I knew like, go find product market fit, but you just like convince yourself you have it because you closed 5 deals when in reality they're not using the platform and 3 of them churn. And you're like, but they churn because they were just a bad fit. We still have product market fit. And you just like, you convince yourself you have these things because you want to have these things. And that's for sure my biggest learning that I will never do again now with whatever I start next is like, the next time around, I'll just do it totally different. And we had, Gil had the same thing as you. We had early investors, and it wasn't like I felt a ridiculous amount of pressure from them, but it was like they wanted to see revenue growth. They had invested in this business. That's what they want to see. And so you just, in hindsight, it was unhealthy, but it didn't really feel unhealthy at the time. You're just chasing closing deals and selling and things like that. But in reality, if I knew what I had known now, we could have saved ourselves years of time just like nailing the product first and then really scale once you've nailed that.
If you had known what you know now about how long Jebbit was going to take to build and how much work it was going to be, would you still have done it?
Absolutely. I've loved it. There's a ton of hard times for sure. There's a lot of stress. There's, real sacrifices you make with how much you can see friends and family or just have, leisure time and things like that. But I've loved it. It's been such an awesome journey.
Would you have started the same product or service? Is that the thing that you want to would have hung your hat on 10 years ago if you had known?
I mean, the easy thing to say now is I just would have built what we do today first instead of going through 6 years of pivoting and learning and things like that. But, it's like one of those things. The only reason we got to where we are today is because we went through all that pain and we sat down with so many customers and we watched so many early customers churn and learned why they churned and learned why we hadn't built the thing they really needed yet. And it's just, the thing with us is we knew nothing about the industry, right? Like it wasn't like we'd been in this industry for 20 years and had a career and knew the exact problem and knew this. We were just a bunch of young, energetic kids coming out of college saying we want to go start something and we're willing to work really hard at it. And we know we don't know the industry, so we know we're going to have to work harder than everyone else. And yes, I do think some elements of that actually helped us because I think we took a really fresh look at the industry. And I think we there's that saying of like beginner's mind, or we call it show shin at Jebbit is like the term for it. And we talk about that a lot. I think that helped us to some degree, but it also definitely hurt us that we knew nothing about the industry and we were trying to figure out what the hell to build. So yeah, well, crazy journey for sure.
Right. So as a young person who doesn't have the industry experience, what was it like raising capital?
Hard.
Yeah. How did you get people to believe in you?
I think in hindsight, they just saw how hard we were working and how motivated we were. And I think they just were willing to bet on us that we were going to figure it out. And I don't really think you can fake that. That was just the reality. I remember.
Because like you said, it was less about the product that you were building and more about you, right?
Yeah. In hindsight, I'm shocked, but also understand it, why our investors acted the way when we went into that board meeting at the end of 2013 and said, we want to pivot the whole business. And when they said, what do you want to pivot it to? I naively said, oh, I'm not sure yet. I haven't figured that out. And like, they jumped right into, well, that's fine. We didn't invest in this product. We invested in you and your team. So let's go figure it out together. And, I help a lot of college entrepreneurs now and try to help younger entrepreneurs. And it's going to sound cliche, but it's so true. Like the team and the people behind it are 10 times more important in the early days than whatever the idea is or the market is, or, whatever it is. Like those things matter obviously, but they're not the most important piece.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that you have to be very charismatic in order to get funding?
I don't know if charisma is the exact word. Like I think being dedicated and resilient and like self-aware and showing you're coachable and you're willing to learn and pivot, I think those things are much more important than charisma.
Mm-hmm. Right. Gil, what was your experience like raising capital for the first time?
Just want to say, it's always nice to hear so many of the absolute truth from fellow entrepreneurs. So many of what you say. It's like
it's fun because these are normally one-on-one. Like I'm the only entrepreneur on this call. It's fun to have two and hear what you're saying as well. So
that's cool. Sorry, I missed your question, Amy. Forgive me.
Oh, what was your experience like when you raised capital for the first time?
Oh, it was shit. It was terrible. No one wanted to invest in me. I remember I actually went to an investor. So I was a good marketer, and I got a chance to go to board meetings and show the results and talk to partners. And I thought like, I'm great. I'm all going to invest in me later. And I remember I went to an investor and I showed him my product. And he was like, okay. Then he said like, well, Gil, I don't think you have a business here or a product. I'm not interested in investing. And well, I won't say the name of the VC, but we're not interested in investing either. I'm just like, like the energy level goes to like 2%. And then of course he ends up with like, but if, I would love to keep in touch. Like, you should let me know how you progress. And I told him like, dude, definitely not going to keep in touch. It doesn't sound like you have any belief in me or this product. I think I'm just going to go back and do some more work, but probably find different partners. And that's true. That was at the beginning. I had 3 of these conversations, and I said I'm not going to go to investors to begin with. I went back, worked on the business, got it to a different place, and then life was very different. Suddenly I would get inquiries. Suddenly I think we joined 500 startups and Alchemist, and it became a lot easier. I don't think it's still easy for me. Like, I just like snap my finger and I go and raise another round. It's not like that, but knowing the game and the process, and mostly understanding the pattern recognition that VCs have with businesses, like what exactly do they look for, because they see 1,000 businesses. And so their eyes and their brain are just like looking for particular signals, knowing that. And if you want funding, optimizing for those patterns and signals makes for a very different process and experience.
You got to know the game. What's the game?
In one word, I would say trend. Trend is the biggest game. Like every KPI that you have, like ARR, NRR, gross dollar retention, like all of those metrics that are talked about, like CAC to LTV, like all of those things, the absolute number matters significantly less than the trajectory itself. And when you know that early on, you can basically reverse engineer in a very pragmatic, even conservative way, your path to guarantee almost that you fit that trend. To Tom's point, like, and I did made the same mistake. Like, you're thinking about revenue, or do I have to get customers? Do I have to sell right now, even though I don't really have something that is sustainable? And you think the answer is yes, because there is some thing that you think you have to continue, versus you can really stop. And I admire that you went to your board, by the way, and told them I'm going to pivot, and I don't know what. That must have taken a lot of courage, and I think that's really great and very healthy to do. You can do that. I remember talking to Manny Medina. He's the CEO of Outreach, like years ago in the roof, like companies about to crash and burn, like we have no cash. My product is really not working at all. And he told me, Gil, just rebuild the product again. I was like, Manny, what do you mean? Like, I already working at the company for like 2 years, a year and a half. He's like, dude, I replaced my product. Like I trashed it and built it again, like 5 times. I told him, really? Like 5 times you built Outreach? He told me, yeah. I was like, okay, people have done this before. I'm going to try to do this too.
Okay.
I think we've done it 3 times at Jebbit, if I remember correctly.
3 times here as well.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So don't be afraid to start again.
Don't be afraid to start again. Don't be afraid to reinvent everything about the business that you think should be reinvented. There is every day you can decide, I'm not proposing every day. No, it's never too late. Absolutely not.
All right.
And I think just accepting that isn't a setback. That is what progress in entrepreneurship is. Like, I think we're trained so much in school of like a traditional path to progress and success. And literally like, you got to get 90% right to be a good grade and things like that. And this world is just not that at all. Like, you hear enough entrepreneur stories and you learn almost every business did this. Started going down one direction, pivoted, went another direction, rebuilt, threw everything away based on what they learned and started something new, whatever it might be. So it's like, I think many first-time founders think they're like alone in that, or they think it's like a failure that you're saying this first thing we tried isn't going to work and we're going to do something different. It's just like, that's just the reality of building a company.
Was there ever a time when you pivoted so hard that you were like, maybe I should just start a new company? Like, why do you keep going with the same brand and same company, Tom?
I never got to that point. We always at least stayed within the world of marketing technology that we were selling into brands to some degree. Okay. I don't really have an amazing answer for you as to why. I think it was just like, I think we were always trying to build off of what we had learned, right? It was like, okay, this didn't work because of XYZ. So let's tweak it and go over here. And we think this idea will be better, but then you try that idea for a year and you realize, oh, well, that has ABC wrong with it. And then you kind of go from there. I think had we just gone and been like totally new industry, totally new product, I think that would have been a much bigger challenge for us.
Yeah. Gil, are you around the same boat or?
I mean, I think the answer is right there. And also, the team has a shared experience now that you can leverage from. And every failure that is roughly in the same domain is you just increase your knowledge and decrease the risk in that new idea you're pivoting into significantly. And that's worth a lot. I mean, this is the gold in entrepreneurship. I think like when you fail and you get that knowledge and experience, it's like sweat experience too. It's like you don't forget that. No, you know very deeply what is true and what's not, and applying that to a new idea. And now suddenly with fresh capital or fresh mind, or is like the second chance or the third chance that you ever always wanted, and you make it work.
All right. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. What is your number one piece of advice for a first-time entrepreneur, Tom?
Something around perspective. Like I was debating between like finding great co-founders, but that's kind of like, I think a no-brainer that you need. I think for me, I always tried to really keep things into perspective. Like whether it's just how lucky we are to even like for us, like be in America, building a software company and like all the opportunities we were given. I mean, I've literally just walked into a college, 40 minutes from where I grew up and had money being offered to me in a business plan competition. I mean, that's incredibly, fortuitous in the first place. I didn't have to move countries, learn a new language. Like I meet entrepreneurs that have had to go through crazy things. And then on top of that, like we were building marketing software. Like, yeah, we're competitive. We want to win. We want to, build the best company we can, but like, we're not going to the medical world trying to save lives or things like that. So even on our worst days, I try to just like keep all that in perspective. And I think that's been a huge reason for me of being able to just like keep getting up day after day and keep going through all the hard times we've been through. So I think perspective is probably the big, gratitude. Love gratitude. Big fan of that.
Yeah. Gil, what's your number one piece of advice for a first-time entrepreneur?
I think not that different, same lines, maybe managing your psyche. And underneath that, there is resilience, forgiving yourself, gratitude.
Be easy on yourself.
Be easy on yourself, and and believing in your ability to do what you were set out to do, and managing your highs and lows so that you can continue this for a good amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just going to say actually that I admire the fact that you continued to work on metadata even when VCs told you that you had no business, and just continuing to work despite the fact that people tell you no, I think is like an important piece. Not that I am an entrepreneur, but I imagine that you get told no so many times that you just kind of have to keep going.
Yeah, I think it almost becomes a drive to an extent. Like if you believe in your way and you see out of 20 no's, there is a yes, and then you did what you said you'll do, and the investor is like, yeah, this is awesome. You start thinking like, okay, I can create some of this reality. Like, of course, people are not everyone is going to agree. That's part of the game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I always found it really comforting to know any big company you look up to, that's what they went through. Like, Facebook was founded here in Boston where I am. They couldn't get any VCs in Boston to give them money. Look what they built,
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb, people thought they were crazy when they started Airbnb. I think there's articles of they had like 100 no's before they got their first yes, whatever it was. So I always I read a lot in the early days when I was shifting from being a biology major to I want to start a company. And you just realize like, oh, this is just how it works. Like most of the time, you're going to get a ton of no's before you get that first yes.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you very much for joining the podcast. I appreciate your time. Gil, where can we find you and what you're working on online?
I am on LinkedIn, so Gil Alush, also Gil at metadata.io. Always happy to help out, especially to fellow entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. What am I working on right now? Growing the company. You can see me on LinkedIn trying to hire the next wave of people to the company.
All right, sweet. Tom, where can we find you and what you're working on online?
LinkedIn as well, and Tom at Jebbit.com is my email.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. If you like this episode of the HackerNoon Podcast, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to it. I also want to let you know that these guys are nominated for Startup of the Year. At the time of this recording, I don't have all the information on how you can vote, but I will put it in the show notes for you. Please go vote for them. And this episode was hosted by me, Amy Tom, produced by HackerNoon, and edited by our lovely audio wizard, Alex. Thank you so much. Stay weird, and I'll see you on the internet. Bye-bye.
HackerNoon Podcast.